there's probably going to be some bad language in this, so you might not want to let the kids watch. Hey everyone, I'm Dom. I'm a bit of a wino and I love to rant, so hopefully you like to listen. Now, we just had a pretty good card there with UFC 261. All the title fights were amazing performances by the winners. We got 2 new champs and one who retained her belt, my girl Val, number 1 pound for pound. I told you. Who knows what's going to happen next for her? I would love the rematch with Nunes to happen, but I mean, Nunes is matched up with Juliana Pena next, and Val, I mean, Lauren Murphy, I believe, is fighting... Oh, I forget now. But that fight seems pretty poised for a number 1 contender fight. People were talking about if Weili won, coming up from strawweight to take on Val. I say no to that. Well, because Rose won. I say no to Rose going up. There's a built-in number 1 contender fight there already going on with Yan Xiaonan taking on Carla Esparza. So especially if Yan Xiaonan wins, that should be the next title fight at strawweight. I don't think Weili should get the immediate title rematch. Basically, sky's the limit for Val right now. And Kamaru, god damn, what a performance by Kamaru. He was winning the striking in the first round, and he also won the grappling in the first round. And then he came out in the second and gets the knockout. God damn, you see the water fly off Masvidal's head on that right hand. It was a sight to behold. So, just going through those fights real quick. Not going to do a full breakdown, just doing my first impressions and whatnot. But I got to say, they pretty much announced that Colby's going to get the next shot against Kamaru. And a little worried for Colby in that one because Kamaru's hands look about 1,000,000 times better than they did in the first fight between Colby and Kamaru. So hopefully Colby's been working on something else to make that somewhat interesting because I mean I know he's looked good in his well, especially is Tyron the only fight he's had since that fight? I think it is, but he dominated Tyron worse than anyone else had. That's Gilbert Burns and Kamaru up until the Luque fight, which was kind of back and forth. And then Luque got the big knockout. But yeah, Colby is a danger to Usman, but unless he's seriously stepped up his striking game, Jesus, Usman's the change of camps has been amazing. Like Henry Hooft was the head coach where he used to train, who is an all-time great kickboxer and has great striking knowledge, and I'm sure is a great striking coach. But man, Trevor Weidman, and especially tonight, Trevor Weidman is walking out of this looking pretty damn good because, yeah, he's Kamaru's coach in this one, but it's like Kamaru had other coaching to bring him up to the level of champion. But in the last 2 fights, which have been the 2 fights that Trevor Weidman has coached Kamaru, his striking has just been on another level. The way he outstruck Gilbert Burns, which I didn't expect, and now outstriking Jorge Masvidal, which you definitely wouldn't expect, not just outstriking him, but knocking him out. So not only has he got his striking to a level that he's comfortable to stand and strike with people, and that he's winning striking exchanges against, on paper, better strikers, but he's knocking people out now. He generally didn't do that before in his career. I think the only knockout in the UFC, don't know about before he got there, I believe was Sergio Moraes, which was kind of like a swarming knockout, whereas both Gilbert and Jorge, he's shown that kind of knockout power. Yeah, I don't think either one was like straight knockout walk-off, He had to get a few follow-up shots in there to finish it, but they were concussive, knockdown, knockout type shots. So, oh my God, he's looking amazing. Then we get to Rose. I mean, there's not too much you can say about the fight because not much happened in it. She just landed that head kick and boom, game over. It was a totally fair stoppage. I think Weili might need to read up on the stoppage laws a little because she was like, I wasn't unconscious, but a ref's not supposed to stop it if you're unconscious. It's if you're not intelligently defending yourself. And she certainly didn't seem to be then. It was a totally fair stoppage. And it really hit the cockles of the heart watching the post-fight interview because she was already pretty much bawling with tears. And then you see him put the belt on and she's shaking, just shaking. And it's like, it means so much to her. And yeah, it almost brought tears to my eyes. It was close to doing that. Also, she mentioned in the post-fight about everything that got whipped up in the news in the lead-up and how she wasn't saying anything personal against Weili. I didn't quite follow everything that happened in that. I just heard that she made like a better dead than red type comment in response to communism from China. And to be honest, I'm on her side there. Communism is not a good thing. Like, you've seen it throughout history, and you can see what China's doing with it right now with, putting Uyghur Muslims in camps and oppressing Hong Kong and everything like that. Like, communism almost always, well, not almost always has in history so far, unless someone can point out to me a different time, always leads to a totalitarian, authoritarian government. So I'm happy with criticisms of communism. But if there was deeper stuff that went into the pre-fight before, I don't know. Don't rip me to shreds for saying Rose was all good in saying it, because that's all I heard about it, that she criticised communism and made the better dead than red comment, which, is just going back to Cold War times. Yeah, when the propaganda was a bit up and whatnot, but the point is still there. It's not a good thing. I digress. We're getting away from the amazing performance. That head kick, a few punches. Thug Rose, the new strawweight champion. Like I already mentioned, the number one contendership, you've pretty much got a built-in number one contender fight coming, Yan Xiaonan versus Carla Esparza. But when is Tatiana going to get back from this injury? Like, Tatiana's the only one that I can think of. Well, maybe Yan Xiaonan, because she has looked fantastic, and maybe Weili, if she works her way back to a rematch, could do better. But just off the top of my head, the best chance to beat Rose for me would be Tatiana. I've picked Tatiana to be a UFC champion for years now, but she's just been out with injuries, and it's like, when's she going to come back? So Tatiana Suarez, I'm waiting on you here. But yeah, great performance by Rose. Don't see an immediate rematch for Weili, but it won't take her much to get back to that fight. Maybe they'll book a rematch with Joanna and Weili. I know that's going to have to happen at some point in the future because it's an all-time great fight. As many people said, and I probably agree, greatest female fight of all time. So you got to think a rematch there's coming at some point. Maybe now's the time, and you can still save another one for the trilogy at some point. But yeah, Thug Rose did so well. And then we move on to my girl, Valentina, just dominating once again. And the video I made earlier this week about her being number one pound for pound, in my mind, that's just been solidified because the absolute dominance that she put in against a legit contender in Jessica Andrade, who did decent at bantamweight besides being clearly undersized. The fact that she could even make strawweight shows that she was way undersized at bantamweight. Not only make strawweight, win the championship there. So she's a former title winner at strawweight, and then she looked great in her first flyweight fight. It's probably her natural division, but it's just that Valentina is so damn good. And the commentary was somewhat surprised at Valentina getting the grappling dominance in there. But I wasn't, because that's what put me on the Valentina bandwagon so much the first time. And I've never jumped off. I knew how good she was kickboxing ever since she came into the UFC. I didn't see her prior career too much. But the Juliana Pena fight, I came into that thinking it was basically going to be a striker versus grappler matchup. And Juliana being a fantastic grappler, and up until that point had really not been troubled by anyone, and Valentina just completely out-grappled her. That's what made me open my eyes and go, damn, this Valentina girl is something special. And since then, she has proven that belief right every single time. And yeah, Valentina, number one, pound for pound, my favorite female fighter. And good on her for the win. Then we get to the Chris Weidman versus Uriah Hall fight, and oh my God, Jesus, that was tough to watch. You've seen that leg break happen before. Serendipitously, it actually happened with Weidman doing it to Silva with the check, and Anderson in their second fight, Anderson breaking his leg like that. But, man, this was the worst one of those I've ever seen. The break looked worse on the initial kick to begin with. It looked like there was more of a flop to the foot afterwards. But secondly, when he stepped on it, it's like it happened so quick he didn't realize it happened. And then he put it back behind him and he stepped on it with all his weight. And it just completely folded on itself and was going at an acute angle, not even a right angle, like an acute angle like that, leg, foot, and a bottom of leg, not even foot. Like you had the whole ankle and foot and a piece of leg with it. Jesus, that was sickly to watch. And once again, you can't break down the fight too much because it was just that kick. But absolute class from Uriah Hall in the post-match interview. He said everything right. You couldn't script a better response to that. He's already, a pretty sensitive and caring guy. You notice that when he knocked out Adam Seller in their Ultimate Fighter fight, and he has been throughout his career. And yeah, you could see it was really affecting him the way he kind of was on his knees, just kind of looking out with his back to what was happening behind him, just looking out of the cage, not focusing on the crowd and just kind of trying to meditate because he felt so bad about what had just happened to Chris. And the fact that he offered a rematch no matter how high he is at the rankings if and when Chris heals is just a real classy move. So Uriah Hall, I mean, it's a knockout win for him and very classy, but so sad to see that happen to Chris. Also sad for me because that was one leg on my multi. I had a head-to-head bet on Smith, as we'll get in next, and I had a multi going carrying over from last week with it had Robert Whittaker as the first leg, then it had Brendan Allen, Anthony Smith, Chris Weidman, Valentina, and Kamaru Usman. And that would have given me $200 off 10 if Weidman had won. So a little spewed on my side that one didn't come off. But overall on the day, I won $60 spent, 122 won. So doubled your money. Can't complain too much. But feeling bad for Chris. Thoughts and prayers with him. And hopefully he can recover. Now we get to Jimmy Croot versus Anthony Smith. And it was kind of beautiful to watch what ended the fight with Smith doing that kick and it just deadening Jimmy's leg. But it was also a bit of a shame because it ended such a great fight. You've seen that dead nerve thing happen before, but you've never seen it happen to that extent. Like, still be dead, like, after however long was left in the round, almost a minute, I'd say, maybe more than a minute. And then the minute in between rounds, and then his leg was still dead when he walked out afterwards. That was crazy. And, geez, the heart of Jimmy Croot. Did I call him Jimmy Smith before? I may have, but I would have meant to say Jimmy Croot. The heart of him to have taken that kick, have no leg, and then score a takedown straight off that, and be working that takedown, Smith get back up, and he still has enough power off that leg to get a second takedown at the end of that round. Very impressive. But you got to go and look at how good Smith looked during that fight. The fight was good up until that point. It was mainly on the Smith jab and the Croot leg kicks. I think Smith was winning the fight on the jab. Mainly, yes, he got a good left hook in there at some point, and I'm sure at least another punch of some description, but it was mainly that jab versus the leg kick from Jimmy, and that leg kick was very, very nice. But it was pretty much what I was expecting out of the fight. Like, Jimmy's great skill, good in all areas, but still a bit raw, especially in terms of experience, and Smith having more experience than maybe anyone in the light heavyweight division, just being able to work that. That's why when I saw the odds for it, and when I put my bet on, my $50 bet, it was $265 for Smith, and I thought I was getting in cheap at that point. And then it didn't really move over the 2 weeks. I was like, damn, I thought it had come down for Smith. And then coming into the fight, it had gone the other way. I should have waited because Smith was at like 290 going into that fight with Croot at 140. And I was just like, there's such recency bias because I love Jimmy Croot and I'm Australian. I want him to go well going forth. That was also a reason to put the bet on. So, like, the heart wants Jimmy to win, but if he loses, at least I'll get some money out of it. But I also thought, like, if I'm seeing those two head-to-head, like, it's almost a pick 'em on skills, but I'm going to edge it to Smith, one in his experience, but two on his resume, the guys he's beaten. And a lot of people have kind of gotten a bit down on Smith, not necessarily after his last fight where he beat Devin Clark in the first round, but the 4 fights before that, he was 1-3. But you look at the 3 losses, it was John Jones, the greatest of all time, Glover Teixeira, who's been looking absolutely phenomenal. Well, he's always been at the top of the division almost since he came in, and especially lately, he's been looking better than ever. He should get the next shot at light heavyweight. Don't know if it's been announced yet, but he definitely should get it. And then there's Alexander Rakic, who has also shown that he belongs at the top of that division. And then the one win in that 4-1, in that 4-fight run, was Alexander fucking Gustafsson. He beat Gustafsson, and people are still down on him. It's like, Jesus, show the man Anthony Smith a little bit of respect, would you? So that fight kind of happened like I wanted. The heart would have liked Jimmy to win, but the heart was also kind of happy. One, because I like Smith. He's a good dude. And also because I won some money. But I am glad that they gave Jimmy a little spot on the mic afterwards, and he gave a shout out to Anzac Day. It is Anzac Day here in Australia. Props to all the veterans out there. Thank you for your service and what you've done for us and everything like that. Feels like, I don't know what to say, like happy Anzac Day. That feels like a weird thing to say. Feels like more of a solemn and respectful thing than to say, be happy. But I suppose we're supposed to be happy for the sacrifices they've made and the life that they've allowed us to live, which I definitely am happy for and very appreciative for. So good on you, Jimmy, for mentioning it, and thank you so much, Anzacs, that you allow us to live the life we have. You gave up your lives. You are the biggest heroes ever. Happy Anzac Day to everyone. Now we go into the prelims. I might have to quickly look at my phone because I took some voice recordings. I'm not going to listen to them here, but the little titles that I made should remind me of what was going on. And instead of continuing to go down the card, I think I'll start from the bottom because, goddamn, what a way to open the show. Not just the first fight, the first 2 fights were absolutely amazing. It was I believe Liang Na versus Connolly. What was Connolly's first? Like Adriana or something like that. But anyway, that first round was so back and forth. And by the end of it, because Na, I say, was winning it on the big moments. They both had big moments, but Na definitely had the bigger big moments until right at the end when Connolly was getting that ground and pound on her. And the ref was like, you gotta fight, you gotta move, fighter, you gotta do something. And the bell saved her, but then once Connolly got up and Na stayed down, she actually had to be picked up and carried to her corner, which you're not allowed to do, by the way. The ref or the commission guys should have been in on that. But then we saw it go straight out to the second round, and Na came out strong again, but she was clearly too tired. The ref had seen what happened at the end of the first, seen how bad it was for her standing up, how long it took her to get up, and then saw the same thing happening by about a minute into the first round. So in the usual cases, that might have been a bit of a soft finish, but it was definitely a fair finish. And yeah, great fight to start the card. Then the second fight, I just jumped straight into this after the main event finished. So I don't know who got the performance of the night and who got the fight of the nights. Don't even know what I'd pick. I'd have to think about it. But that second fight could have easily been a fight of the night on any card. Wowee. Jeffrey Molina versus, this is going to test me. Uri Chileng, something like that. And yeah, what a great fight that was. Fair decision for Molina, in my opinion. This kind of leads me into something. The commentators seem to forget what was happening in the fight that they're just watching. Because I gave Chileng the first round. Then the second round, he was doing more significant strikes and impactful strikes on volume, but Molina got 2 knockdowns. The commentary team was talking as if Uri Chileng had the round in the bag up until the last second or two when Molina knocked him down, but they seem to completely forget that Molina had knocked him down earlier in the round as well. And when you're looking at the scoring criteria, most impactful strikes are judged highest. A knockdown is almost the most impactful thing, especially striking. It is the most impactful thing you can do besides finishing the fight, which the scores don't even matter anymore. So Molina had knocked him down. And yes, even before and after the first knockdown, Uri Chileng was doing, a lot more of the damage, but Molina was doing enough damage to stay close enough to him that first knockdown could have easily had him ahead in that round anyway. And then the second knockdown right at the end definitely sealed the round for him in my mind. And like I said, the commentators completely forgetting that first knockdown and thinking it was all built on the second knockdown. It's like, I know you're excited and you're in there watching live, but it happened 2 minutes ago. There was another knockdown. Pay attention. And then the third round was clearly Molina's. Yes, right at the end, Uri Chileng landed a big shot that wobbled Molina, didn't drop him, but would have been very significant, is very significant. But Molina was dominating those significant strikes so much more than Uri Chileng was with the volume in the second round. So even if it had knocked him down, it might not have stole the round for him. It might have, but it might not have because Molina was just dominating so hard. Then I believe the next fight was not Navida. I've got to look at it. Vargas was his name versus Zurong. And another one. where the commentators are just kind of saying stupid shit. I might make a separate video about this altogether, but it's like they don't understand scoring. Like, you can easily learn the scoring criteria for MMA. Just Google it. Like, it's not that hard to see the unified rules of MMA and how fights are supposed to be scored. And they're talking about that second round in the Vargas fight like it was actually close, when Vargas had him in a tight guillotine for almost half the round. And DC's like, oh, how do you score that? Zurong was on top, but Vargas had the guillotine in. You score it for the guy with the fucking guillotine, you idiot. Like, Jesus Christ. And look, not calling DC an idiot. Very smart guy, great fighter, everything like that. But that comment is idiotic, because if you look at the scoring criteria, which you as commentators, like, that should be, you know, one of the first things you do, actually know the rules of the sport you're commentating on. It seems like they never actually understand how fights are supposed to be scored. And the scoring criteria, just in simple terms, is striking and grappling, effective striking and grappling with impactful actions taking precedence above cumulative actions. And a close submission is the grappling equivalent of a knockdown in striking. It's the closest you can get to finishing a fight. It's the closest you can get. Well, not closest you can get. It's the most impactful thing you can do grappling, is get a close submission. And that's why it's impactful, not damage. Because a choke, a close guillotine choke like he had, a close rear naked choke, something like that, it's going to leave no lasting damage, but it has a lot of immediate impact. And you're supposed to score it accordingly. I can't remember Zurong doing much else in that round besides having a bit of top time, and Vargas got some too. And yeah, that guillotine clearly had it for him. And then I believe it's earlier in the day, so I believe Vargas won the third round anyway. I thought it was the right decision when it went to the cards. But interestingly, apparently Vargas got the first round of that 10-8, and Connolly got a 10-8 earlier in the first round of the first fight. And it's like, oof, geez, I don't necessarily see that. If anyway you're going to give a 10-8, it would have been in the second round for me of the Vargas fight. I kind of understand where they're going with the 10-8 in the Connolly one, because, and I think Nah did herself no favors here by staying down after and showing how fucked up she was. Mostly that was from exhaustion, but that leaves a bad impression in the judge's mind that she was basically finished if the fight didn't end. But goddamn, she did so much in that first round to, you'd imagine, claw back a point to make it 10-9. But still, that leads me into the next fight, which made me very surprised that they didn't score any 10-8s in this next one. It was Connolly versus Sabatini. And, I mean, if you're going to put 10-8s in those first two rounds, you'd think Sabatini would have got a 10-8 in at least the first of this, because he knocked Connolly down, and then he dominated grappling for the remainder of the round. It's like, out of every round we've seen so far tonight, that's the biggest 10-8 I've seen, and they didn't 10-8 it. The second round was Sabatini just fucking dominating the grappling completely again, and then the third round, Connolly mounted a bit of a comeback, and in my mind, he won that round. One judge didn't give it to him, but 29-27, I reckon, on my cards, because I think that first round should have been a 10-8. In terms of the judge, if it was the one judge who was given 10-8s earlier in the night with Connolly and whoever it was, I'm totally blanking now, Connolly and Vargas, they must just be purely judging impactful strikes, because yeah, that's the only way I could see him given the 10-8s in those rounds. Then the last fight on the Fight Pass prelims was Danar Batgarel versus Kevin Natividad, which May have been a little bit of an early stoppage in my mind. I did think it was, like, I won't even say may have. I thought it was a little bit of an early stoppage, but not the worst early stoppage you've ever seen in your life. So congratulations to you, Batgarel. I'll tell you what, good thing he got that, because this was supposed to be a big night for China, big night for UFC to sell themselves to China, and it did not go well. Their main girl, Wei Li, losing via head kick knockout in the first round, losing her title, and two of the three other Chinese fighters on the card losing. That was Liang Na, who I already talked about, and Zhu Rong. Oh, wait! Three of the four. Zhu Rong and Ari Chi Lang. So they all lost. It's a good thing they got one win, but the Chinese won't necessarily be happy about the win because Batgarel's Mongolian, and the Chinese tend to level their national pride into true Chinese, and then, like, you know, Hong Kongers and Mongolians and stuff like that. So I'm sure they'll be happy he won, but I bet they wish their other Chinese people won more than that. All right, then we get to the main prelims. Allen versus Roberson. Great performance by Allen. Like I said, I had him on the multi before. Only fell down because of Weidman. And fight happened pretty much as I expected. I was actually surprised watching UFC on the line earlier in the week with the betting experts. I remember Yanni in particular. I don't remember if Nick said it, but he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm going in on Roberson. I think the odds are really good on Roberson." I'm like, "Are you kidding?" The only way he's ever lost is by submission, and he's going up against not just a really good fighter who's looking great right now, but one of the biggest submission threats in the whole division. And surely enough, Allen got the submission at the end of the first round. So that happened like I thought. Surprisingly, that's another thing with the odds, because the on-the-line guys were on Croot as well, saying, "Oh, jump in on Croot, go all in on Croot." And I'm like, a lot of disrespect for Anthony Smith here. So I feel like sometimes they just look at the numbers and don't look at the style matchups, which is so important in MMA, because we all know styles make fights, and also the opponents, past opponents and things like that. But yeah, good win for Allen. He'll keep marching forward. Roberson should hopefully get another shot. I forget the record. Hopefully he's not on too many losses in a row, because he is good, and I'd like to see him again. Who fought next? Grant versus Sekulic. Now this was an interesting one. The crowd booed a bit at the result, but I can kind of understand it. To be perfectly honest, I zoned out a little for about the first half of the first round. I was kind of just looking at the screen, but looking through it and not paying a lot of attention. Then I was like, snap myself back into it and say, "Hey, come on, pay attention to the fight." And the rest of the round, not a lot seemed to happen. Like, maybe Grant was out striking a little bit, but not really doing much. And then Sekulic got the takedown right at the end, but did nothing with it. So I'd have to watch that round again to know, to really choose a winner of it personally. But if Grant had been landing those strikes, if I was paying attention, I understand that going to him. The second round, I can also understand going for him, because he had a couple of big moments, two big sequences at the start of the round where he landed some good strikes, then a whole lot of nothing through the middle of the round again, and then a takedown around that middle of the round for Sekulic, which once again he did pretty much nothing with. And then Sekulic was kind of putting on the pressure a bit towards the end of that round, landed a good stiff jab, I remember, but not too much more than that. So on the striking, I did have Grant winning, and the takedown Sekulic did nothing with. So I understand them giving that round to Grant. Third round, clearly Sekulic. So depending on how the first round went, I'd need to watch it again. Maybe you could complain about the decision, but really it's one of those close fights that could have gone either way in my book. And I definitely had the second round going for Grant and the third round going for Sekulic. So without me being able to score the first round, I'll just say fair enough for now. What I did notice about that fight was Grant could never get his range. He seemed like I missed the tail of the tape because I was pouring a drink, but I just feel like looking at them, he had the longer range, the longer reach, and he just seems so timid to get inside of that reach. And I feel like that is just him being gun shy after the D-Rod, Daniel Rodriguez knockout in his last fight. So can he get over that? We'll wait and see, because up until this fight, he's been a real exciting, come forward, high action type fighter. And this time he was still throwing a lot, but seemed like 90% of his strikes missed by about 6 inches because he was just too afraid to get inside that range of Sekulic, which might be, as I said, him a bit gun shy because of being knocked out, but it might also be because he understood how good of a counter striker Sekulic was. But on to the next fight, we had Brown versus Oliveira. And man, whenever Cowboy Oliveira is in a fight, you know it's going to be fun. You know it's going to be fun. And looking at them on paper, I probably would have picked Oliveira to win, but you just can never depend on him to get a win for you. Like, not saying it depends on which Cowboy shows up, because the same Cowboy shows up every time. It's just that he's so wild that he leaves himself open to getting caught. And he got caught in both realms in this one. Got caught with a big right hand and dropped, and then he got caught with the rear naked choke that got him. And my God, a one-armed rear naked choke. It might be the first time I've ever seen that. Randy had the one arm around him, and Oliveira's entire defense for it was 2 hands on the one wrist, trying to stop the supporting arm from coming up to get behind the head and finish the choke. But, like that, of course, if you're doing it. Yeah, like Randy, not just the strength, it was the length of the arm that he could kind of dowsim it all the way around, grab his own shoulder, and still have like the leverage, not just the muscle, because you're going to wear out your arms a lot just trying to squeeze like that, but that he could grab that and leverage it to actually cut the carotid arteries off. And by the end, he did get that support arm in, but by the time he got the support arm in, Oliveira had already tapped. He'd tapped to the one arm. So a one-arm guillotine, absolutely amazing. And yeah, since I've already done the main card, that takes us to the end of the results and my reaction to the whole card. Wow. Pretty good card. Like some great action across it, especially the main card, the 3 championship fights. Yeah, maybe they could have gone longer. They were all over pretty quick, but you can't complain with performances like that. So I'm the wino, and hope you enjoyed my rant. Cheers.